There is an awful lot to get to here with Stephen Conroy, with Bronwyn Bishop and with Nicholas Rees. I love you all, one and all. Don't worry, Nikki, we're all good. Let's talk about now, Stephen and I are going to have a fight, because we always will about this, right, because he'll find a way to change the subject. But how do you feel about your mates in the Labor Party? Of all the things they could tweet out, strength to, was it to any of the workers in the commercial media who are losing their jobs? No. Instead, it was well done to the people who aren't getting paid a cent less for an hour's less work, because, of course, state media, taxpayer TV, is better than any of the media that anyone else works in. And I say this because, yeah, I've got my backup. My mates are losing their jobs. None of these people will lose their jobs. But the Workers' Party, nothing to say about people losing their jobs in regional radio. Regional radio. Not backstage at, the Today Show or a millionaire being told to take 20% on a Sydney breakfast show. Regional radio stations, Stephen.
Well, Paul, I don't know that the difficulties of the media, the commercial media, are as intertwined with your focus on the ABC. We are in the middle of a pandemic. The ABC are doing a great job of keeping Australians right across the country informed. And there is nothing wrong with saying radio and television. You've done a good job. Nothing wrong with that. The issue around the pressures that the commercial radio were in. 2 weeks ago, we had this argument.
What are you whispering, Nicholas? We can hear you on them.
I said to you that the proprietors of commercial media were in the PM's office as we speak, lobbying for money, and they've got some. They've got a whole range of regulatory changes, some of which I put in place, where they've got relief from it, that are saving them tens of millions of dollars.
Sure, but I'm saying, so and I don't to avoid an exact carbon copy of the same chat 2 weeks ago, can I introduce a new thing for us to argue about, which is, my issue is about that I think that Channel 9's done a good job. I think Channel 2's done a good job. I think Sky's done a good job. I think that, but the difference between the people doing a good job in an organisation where there is zero chance of losing your job and doing a good job when there is massive pressure, when you know that somebody who used to sit 2 desks away doesn't work here anymore, that is something that is worthy of a shout out as well. That's what I'm trying to say. But instead they're picking cultural winners and losers at a time when, who can say that Channel 10's done a shit job? No one can. I think, generally speaking, media that I philosophically would disagree with or disagree with their spin on it, I think they've done a good job. I think The Guardian's done a good job when it's focused in on telling great stories about people in funerals in Western Australia. But why is it so hard to turn around and say, well done to everyone who's working hard but is also working hard while their job might disappear?
Well, if your criticism is they haven't been effusive and supportive, or in your view as supportive as they could be, well, that's a fair point to make. I don't know it means that you have to jump on the ABC side.
Well, it's the only one they welcome.
Media, I don't think the interviews that I've seen interviewing Twiggy Forrest would fall into your category of well done on the coronavirus issue. So I think they're not perfect, but in general, 99% of the media's efforts at the moment are good. Sky is doing a fabulous job of keeping Australians informed.
Right. So when parts of the ABC were predicting up to 100,000 deaths, but that didn't end up happening, and we haven't even had 100, that's not an asterisk against them, but whether or not you ask Twiggy Forrest a rough enough question on a Bubble and Squeak breakfast show, that's what will determine whether you get a high five or not? Come on, mate. You know what I'm trying to say here.
They were quoting the analysis that was being done by the expert panel advising the Prime Minister and the Chief Medical Officer. The fact that we have done a brilliant job, the country has got right behind the Prime Minister and the Premiers and done a fantastic job, doesn't mean that the forecasts, if nothing had been done, somehow were completely fake news.
Sure, but
that
we're now
is a
4 steps
ludicrous
removed, Bron.
argument.
We're 4 steps removed, and what I'm trying to say is that as hard a job as it might be to be the ABC mornings host in Broken Hill trying to do a localised coverage for Broken Hill, it is just as hard just as emotionally difficult for a person in their 20s who works on the other side of this camera here, who reads about what's happening at Foxtel, who sees what's happening at... There is a genuine fear, and I agree. I mean, Chris Uhlmann made this point, that it's the ABC that's giving itself a high five and getting high fives from political leaders at a time when they're just doing their job. But, Bronwyn, the whole point is that what seems so weird about this is if you just want to say well done, you don't say well done to the following nurses that work for the following hospitals. You just say well done to all the nurses. Why couldn't you say well done to all the hard-working people that are telling us what we need to know? Instead, they picked a hospital and they picked the nurses.
Because Albanese set the tone for this when the Parliament last said, and he said that the ABC should get more money. This is in face of the people that were in commercial radio and television who were losing their jobs then. So this is just a continuation of his attitude. I mean, the charter of the ABC says they have to do emergency broadcasting. Until we see the charter in the ABC's Act made enforceable for the other things that are in there, just not on emergency broadcasting, we will never see a fair dinkum accountable ABC. And that's the truth of it. It does some excellent things, but for the ALP to come out and single it out says the ABC is preferred by us because it'll give us good coverage, and we don't do so well in the commercial world. That's exactly what they're saying. They are big government people. They want big government central control. Nothing, and I'm sure, Stephen, that you would have liked to have been absolutely in control of the ABC, centralised in power, so that you could tell them what to say. That's the way centralised governments work.
Well, Bronwyn, I'm lucky. I work with Mark Scott, who publicly said on a number of occasions, the only time Stephen Conroy ever phoned me to talk about content was to check to make sure Doctor Who had renewed its contract with the ABC and to make sure Doctor Who was still on the air. He said it publicly on a number of occasions.
Okay, but Stephen,
so
but
I
Stephen,
was the minister for nearly 6 years.
But Stephen, you would all concede my point about the stress that is happening at this organisation and others. My mates at Fox Sports, my mates at Triple M. Now, yes, this is exactly the same as people who are working in every other industry. And by the way, before the smartasses on Twitter or the smartass pommy bloke who does 15 minutes of television a week wants to say, there he was comparing himself to nurses, I'm not. It was a metaphor, okay? Not a comparison. Nurses are awesome. We're people who work in television, all right? Just relax before that becomes the easy hit on Monday night. Anyway, you get the last word here, Stephen, because I want to move on, but I also just...
It's a fair...
Hang on, there's a really important point that's not been said so far in this debate, and that is that the ABC today announced that they were putting thousands of resources online for children in Australia's schools. So the reason why there was a lot of pollies out there today congratulating the ABC was that they'd made all this ABC education.
Did they congratulate Channel 7 when they did it in Brisbane?
Kids. So for you to go and put the lens over this of somehow it reveals
the idea that you are backing the organisation you don't
politics.
work for when the one that you work for is part of a wider media that is bleeding out. I mean, seriously, dude.
Paul, I mean,
what is the hope that they're going to save a spot for you at the drum, mate?
No, I mean, when it comes to breaking news, no one beats Sky News. When it comes to opinion and robust discussion like we're having, no one beats Sky News, okay?
I agree.
But I'm just saying, ABC made an announcement today about putting thousands of resources on available for kids. You've always got a dark eye for the ABC.
Not true.
And they did something good today.
Not true.
Okay? Now, that doesn't take anything away for the feelings we have for people elsewhere in the media who are in the lead jobs.
It does when you say nothing, mate. What you choose to say nothing about matters. That's my point, is that when you choose to pick winners... Okay, well, good luck. You know, and by the way, again, I couldn't be the world's biggest fan of Bluey. I was there from the first second it dropped, and I've championed its success the whole way through. It's one of the best examples of what they do. But I'm sick of this bullshit where we have to go and kiss the ring and talk about the asterisk rather than just deal with the direct, okay? Because in the same way that they think that the company that I work for is one monolith and that's it, I'm sorry, if you try and say the same thing back, well then all the nuance fight starts happening. I repeat, today, people lost their jobs in the building that I work in, all right? That's why that tweet pissed me off, okay? Pretty simple.